You know what most people get wrong about aging? They think the brain slowly wears out like an old machine, that once you hit a certain age, decline is just the default setting. But then you meet people in their late 80s or even 90s who are still sharp, still curious, still remembering details from conversations last week, still joking, still learning new things. And it makes you wonder, what are they doing differently? Because it's not luck. And it's not just genetics either. There's something deeper going on, a psychological pattern, a way of living and thinking that quietly protects the mind over decades. And once you see it, it changes how you think about aging completely. Let's start with something surprising. Most mentally sharp older adults don't actually try to stay sharp. They don't wake up thinking about brain health or memory exercises. Instead, they build a life that constantly forces the brain to stay awake. They stay involved. And that word, involved, matters more than it seems. Because one of the biggest silent enemies of mental sharpness is not age, it's withdrawal. Slowly stepping back from learning, from social interaction, from problem solving, from curiosity, from challenge. And it happens so gradually that people don't notice it. A person stops learning new tools, stops meeting new people, stops adapting to new environments. Life becomes predictable, comfortable, repeatable. And the brain? The brain starts optimizing for efficiency instead of growth. But the people who stay sharp into old age do something very different. They keep introducing small doses of mental friction into their lives. Not stress, not chaos, but friction. Learning how to use new technology, even when it's frustrating. Reading things outside their usual interests. Asking questions instead of assuming they already know enough. Staying socially engaged, even when it would be easier to isolate. And here's the interesting part. None of this feels like brain training to them. It just feels like life. Now, there's another layer that's even more powerful. Emotion. Aging minds that stay sharp tend to have something in common. Emotional stability. Not perfection, not constant happiness, but the ability to process emotions without getting stuck in them. Because emotional overload, chronic stress, unresolved resentment, constant worry, doesn't just affect mood. It affects thinking clarity, attention, memory retrieval. When the mind is constantly fighting internal battles, it has less space for curiosity. But many mentally sharp older adults develop a kind of psychological lightness. They don't carry every emotional weight forever. They process, they release, they move forward. And that gives their thinking room to breathe. Now let's go deeper, because this next part is where most people miss the real secret. Purpose. Not in a dramatic sense, not changing the world purpose, but something simple. Having reasons to get up that require mental engagement. It could be mentoring younger people. It could be tending a garden. It could be managing small responsibilities. It could even be daily routines that require planning and decision-making. What matters is this: the brain doesn't feel retired. Because retirement, psychologically speaking, can sometimes mean the brain stops being needed. And the brain is extremely sensitive to usefulness. When it feels needed, it stays active. When it feels unused, it downshifts. But here's the twist most people don't expect. These individuals don't stay sharp because they are forcing their brains. They stay sharp because their lifestyle naturally rewards curiosity. They don't say, I must keep my mind active. They live in a way where inactivity simply isn't their default state. Now think about social connection. There's a pattern here that keeps showing up. People who maintain strong cognitive function into very old age almost always stay socially engaged. Not necessarily with huge crowds, but with meaningful interaction. Conversations that require listening, remembering, responding, even joking. Because conversation is one of the most complex cognitive exercises we do without noticing. It forces memory recall, emotional reading, language processing, and quick thinking all at once. Isolation removes that stimulation. Connection preserves it. And over time, that difference becomes massive. But maybe the most important secret is this: they don't identify as old in mind. Yes, they are aware of aging, of course they are, but they don't mentally step into a passive role where decline is expected. They keep a sense of mental identity that says, I am still someone who learns. And that identity shapes behavior more than people realize. Because once you believe your mind is finished growing, you unconsciously stop giving it reasons to grow. But when you believe there is still more to understand, more to explore, more to learn, your life organizes itself around that belief. So when you put all of this together, a clear pattern emerges. It's not one secret. It's a lifestyle psychology. Stay curious. Stay socially connected. Stay emotionally light. Stay mentally useful. Stay open to learning. And maybe the most powerful insight of all is this: the people who stay sharp into their 90s aren't trying to fight aging. They are simply refusing to mentally retire while still alive. And that changes everything.